My name is Glenn Loury. I am the Merton Stoltz Professor of the Social Sciences and Professor of Economics at Brown University, where I teach courses on inequality and social policy, as well as on economic theory conventionally understood. I'm working these days a lot on the problem of high levels of incarceration in the United States, and I'm writing about policy debates around affirmative action and racial inequality in the United States. I also have some interest in these issues in other countries, though I don't claim any great expertise outside of the U.S. So the issue of mass incarceration in the United States has attracted a great deal of attention, both within and outside of the country, and it's something that I've been working on. By mass incarceration, I mean a scale of imprisonment in the country which is out of line with our historical experience and also strikingly greater than what one finds in other societies that are democratic and wealthy industrial economies, such as those in Northern Europe. In the United States, since 1970, we've observed the level of imprisonment rise from about 120 for every 100,000 in the population to over 600 for every 100,000 in the population, an increase of fivefold in 4 decades. We see a phenomenon where roughly 1 in every 100 adults in the United States population is imprisoned. We see huge disparities in the incidence of imprisonment between those who are middle class and those who are poor, between those who are white and those who are black and brown. We've really seen a transformation of social policy in which imprisonment has come to play a much greater role. It is now the social policy of last resort. When the schools have failed, when employment and job training seems not to be getting the job done, we're turning to punitive policies and institutions of confinement to deal with individuals who've not been socialized effectively by other social institutions. So that's what we're talking about. The U.S. out of line both with its own historical experience and with what one sees in other countries, the emergence of a new form of social control and social policy, and it has occasioned a great deal of concern amongst many observers of American society. When thinking about the problem of incarceration in the United States, one thing that has occupied my mind is what is it that we intellectuals, we policy scholars, we who sit in the university and write about these matters, what should we be doing? Now, one thing that we do is we provide our studies that inform policymakers. So we are functionaries within a larger system of social policy production and justification. But I think that our role ought not be limited to consultancy to the authorities that may be helping them do better what it is that they're determined to do. My own view is that we have a responsibility as intellectuals to be critical, independent observers of what's happening in the society, and where it is that we may find things going wrong, off the tracks, off the rails, so to speak, to speak out about that. I think that the advent of mass incarceration presents us with a circumstance in which that kind of independent, critical, and even prophetic intellectual practice is required, and that's what I've been trying in my own small way to do. So looking at this problem of incarceration and inequality in the United States from 30,000 feet, from a high level of generality, one of the things that one sees immediately is that in the academic world, the disciplines, the economists, the sociologists, the statisticians, the moral philosophers, the literary people, the historians, operate in our own silos and we don't talk much to each other. I think there would be great profit to be realized from interdisciplinary conversation and collaboration around these issues. And I think those who fund policy-relevant research in this area might be doing the country a service by trying to be more creative in bringing scholars who approach the problem from different angles of vision and different traditions together, designing our studies in ways that accommodate the needs of the different disciplinary traditions. So specifically, I think quantitative researchers can be benefited by having an awareness of ethnographic and qualitative interview-based encounters with the populations that we study. The survey instruments that we use to gather our quantitative information have to be designed somehow, and the design of those instruments might be materially improved to the extent that the people who are doing that research are aware of these other traditions. I think, too, that people who are studying contemporary institutions of social policy in the country might be benefited by understanding the history out of which those institutions have emerged. I believe, for example, that the organization of American cities, the geographic layout and segregation of the populations and so forth, is something that has come about through historical development. I believe that many of the assumptions and value judgments that inform the development of policy have some origin in our historical experience, and we better understand the policy dynamics and the politics if we attended to the root from which they have derived. So I'm a big fan of interdisciplinary work on these problems.